It's that time again where we're getting close to the release of a new book. Super Edition number 17, Ivypool's Heart, comes out on September 3rd. In this video, I'll go over what we know from least to most spoilery and discuss it all at the end. I'll start with the background info they gave us, then do the teaser quotes, the blurb, summarize the first excerpt since that really doesn't contain many spoilers, show a new map that appeared in another preview, and then go over a very short excerpt from later in the book and a little bit of info from a review. And then I'll end with speculation. So I'll have timestamps in the description if you want to skip any particular part. So here's the cover. And here's a picture they shared on Instagram of the cover underneath the dust jacket. When they first started talking about it to fans last year, September, just after the release of Riverstar's Home, they mentioned that it's written by Cherith, who is revising her manuscript for it at the time, that it takes place during the 6th book of A Starless Clan, and would be the start of a 2-part story with the following Super Edition. They've reiterated this several times, explaining that they first came up with the story of Ivypool's Heart, which involves StarClan sending a group of cats on a quest, and while coming up with the backstory, it started forming the basis of the following Super Edition. Supposedly, this backstory is going to introduce a forgotten generation of warriors. There are 5 teaser quotes that have been revealed. One on the book page. Has the warning in Whistlepaw's vision come true? Has the river run red with blood in spite of all we've been able to do? And the other 4 in an image, which appears to be the full cover underneath the dust jacket. Interestingly, it looks like there's a white deer here. Anyway, here's the quotes. Will the light in the mist be extinguished one day? It's good to see clan cats here after so long. No, not after all the loss these two have endured already. Perhaps now it's time for your story to be remembered. And then here's the blurb. It's been many moons since Ivypool lost her daughter Bristlefrost to the Dark Forest, yet Ivypool can't bear to move on. Even being named Deputy of ThunderClan feels meaningless in her grief. When Whistlepaw has a disturbing vision, one that could spell disaster for all the clans, a group of cats is selected to go on a quest to investigate. Ivypool is happy to join their mission. Perhaps being away from her daily responsibilities will help her escape the painful memory of Bristlefrost's death. The cats set out on an arduous journey, facing everything from painful hunger to bloodthirsty dogs. But nothing can prepare them for what they find. A disgusting 2-legged den that's caging a series of strange animals, including 2 who may have surprising ties to the clans. In order to complete their quest and right a terrible wrong that goes back generations, the 5 clan cats must help these creatures find their true home. But first, Ivypool must let go of the past and her grief if she is to have any hope of ensuring a future for the clans and for herself. An excerpt of the book, consisting of the prologue and 3 chapters, was released on warriorcats.com. I'll summarize them here. It doesn't get that far into the story, but I'll put a timestamp if you want to skip past it. In the prologue, Whistlepaw has a dream that she's had before. She sees the sun-drowned place during a storm, with a mountain shaped like a fox's head in the distance. She hears Kit's wailing, and sees a brown Tom and feels guilt coming from him, and he tells her, "You must make it right or they are lost forever." A nearby group of cats tells them that they can come back for them later, but they have to leave now or they'll all die, and the brown Tom goes with them. Whistlepaw sees a strange symbol in the sky, a tangle of curving vines that appeared to enclose a cloud split by a claw of lightning, and it's described as being flat like the image's 2 legs leave around the lake, not like realistic objects. Normally her dream ends at this point, but this time she finds herself by the lake and sees Misty Star saying, "The debt must be paid," and then the stream in RiverClan territory runs red with blood. Chapter 1 starts off the main book with Ivypool's point of view the night that Sunbeam, Nightheart, and Frostpaw went to spy on RiverClan at the end of Book 5, Wind. She and Richspring have secretly been meeting for the last few moons, sharing in their grief over Bristlefrost's death. Apparently, Renflight has feelings for Rootspring, which he doesn't reciprocate. Upon her return to the ThunderClan camp, ThunderClan is visited by the WindClan medicine cat Kestrelflight, who reports on Whistlepaw's vision and that they'll be having an emergency medicine cat meeting. That night, Ivypool has a conversation with her mate, Fernsong, who reveals that he knows about her meetings with the SkyClan warrior, but she gets upset when he suggests that it might not be helping her and Rootspring move on. In Chapter 2, the clan leaders call an emergency gathering, though RiverClan doesn't attend. Apparently the vision had something to do with cats who have been forgotten and disappeared from StarClan, since StarClan told the medicine cats that it wasn't they who sent the vision. The clans decide to send one cat from each clan: Dawnwing of ShadowClan, Rootspring from SkyClan, Whistlepaw, of course, from WindClan, and Ivypool volunteers to go on behalf of ThunderClan. In Chapter 3, Ivypool says farewell to her clanmates, Squirrelstar appoints Cinderheart as temporary deputy, and the patrol sets off. Icewing, who had fled RiverClan alongside Duskfur and Mothwing at the end of Book 5, catches up to them and comes along as a RiverClan representative. Ivypool discusses her grief for Bristlefrost with her sister Dovewing, and hopes that the time away will help her figure out how to move on. The Kobo Books preview also included a brand new map of the area north of the lake, which is the first time we've seen a new region depicted since Secrets of the Clans and Firestar's Quest came out in 2007, 17 years ago. It's extremely exciting to get this, and it may contain some hints for the book itself, so I'll come back to that later. I thought it'd be interesting to overlay the maps we've seen, since it looks like the area covered by this book is much larger than any we've seen before. We've already got the moon pool and high stones and mountains marked on it, so here we can easily show that with the Great Journey map, and then the lake and forest territories. And so with that, we're getting into more spoilery territory, and I will be referring to this map during it. Blackstone Library, an online audiobook store, put up a sample of Chapter 6 of the book to listen to. The excerpt is pretty short, but basically they're with cats named Slate and Beach, probably at this spot labeled as their camp, after going past a barn with hostile kitty pets that sent dogs after them, and they plan to get help from the sisters. Kirkus Reviews has also posted a review of the book, which tells us roughly how things end and some of the things that happen. It's described as a setup volume, and it's not clear if the journey is completed, since it says by quest's end, but also that it ends in mid-course. Ivypool's grief turns to acceptance, and apparently the patrol makes a remarkable discovery, though the review doesn't say exactly what. Some of their encounters include weasels and foxes, and both friendly and hostile wildcats, and it also examines the afterlife. And with that, that's pretty much everything we know about it. So, speculation time. Whistlepaw's vision in the prologue appears to take place somewhere around here. Also of interesting note, Dovewing and Tigerstar say they passed the mountain on the way back from the big two-leg place in Tigerheart's shadow. I tried to figure out if that two-leg place was depicted anywhere here, but I think it's probably off the map to the north, since Tigerheart did have to take a train to get there. It was described as a particularly huge two-leg place, with the nests being sky-high, to the point that the monsters and thunder paths below seemed tiny. Anyway, as far as the strange symbols she saw, that makes me picture some sort of storm hazard sign. They compared its appearance to two-leg signs around the lake, and my guess is that it can be found near that stretch of the Sundrown place, so that the cats know they're in the right spot, which would make sense if the cats in the prologue had to leave when it was getting stormy, or else they'd die. As to who those cats are, or the kits, I have no idea. That's going to be something we'll learn when the book comes out, I guess. The journeying cats make a lot of sense. Whistlepaw, of course, has to go since she was the one who had the vision, and Ivypool since she's the protagonist, and Rootspring since he's basically her son-in-law, and Dovewing her sister. They'd be the cats she'd have some of the most interesting interactions with. There aren't really any cats in RiverClan that she's as close to, but Icewing's been one of the cats that has been mentioned a lot in the Starless Clan. There's some theories that maybe her inclusion in this journey means that she won't be a candidate for RiverClan's next leader, if she's going to be away on a mission while the splash chill situation gets resolved at the same time, but we'll see. From the Chapter 6 excerpt, we can assume that the route that they've taken up to that point goes something like this. And they did say that they're going to see the sisters, which also makes sense if this mysterious group of cats is forgotten by StarClan. The sisters know a lot about the afterlife. Now that we've seen a mention of wildcats on the map and in the review, that makes me wonder if wildcats are the two strange animals that they meet. But what sort of wildcats are they? Well, I think I have the answer. There's a species of wildcat native to Great Britain called the Scottish wildcat, which I got a chance to see at the New Forest Wildlife Park earlier this year. While they look a lot like house cats, these are not just feral cats. They are a separate species that shares ancestors with our feline friends. They're endangered nowadays due to deforestation and interbreeding with domestic cats. Since Warriors is loosely based on Great Britain, it makes the most sense to me for these wildcats to be Scottish wildcats. As to how they'd have ties to the clans, who knows? Maybe they knew some clan cats many generations back? I have no idea what wrong needs to be righted, though. The review also says it probes into the diverse realms of the afterlife. So I wonder if that means we'll learn more about how StarClan and the Dark Forest work, since the existing books, particularly A Light in the Mist, raise a lot of questions about them. Moving on to the quotes, I'll make some guesses here. Has the warning in Whistlepaw's vision come true? Has the river run red with blood in spite of all we've been able to do? And this is almost certainly Ivypool or another of the patrol, wondering if they've done enough, maybe toward the end of the book. Will the light in the mist be extinguished one day? Maybe this is Ivypool wondering if Bristlefrost will be forgotten? It's good to see clan cats here after so long. This is probably either the sisters greeting the clan cats, or maybe the friendly wildcats meeting them. No, not after the loss these two have endured already. For this one, I can think of two options. Either it's about the two strange animals having endured a loss, or it has something to do with Bristlefrost and refers to someone talking about Ivypool and Rootspring's loss. Maybe they got some sort of false hope about her returning or learned something about the afterlife. Perhaps now it's time for your story to be remembered. This has to be Ivypool or one of the other patrol cats, talking to the strange animals, or descendants of the cats we saw in the prologue. Well, that's pretty much all we can glean story-wise from the bits and pieces that we've seen. I know I'm cutting it close with this video, but hopefully I'll have it out by the release date. I have to admit that Ivypool wasn't a character I was particularly interested in seeing with the Super Edition, but the new map has reminded me of the excitement of new lore from when I was a kid, so I'm looking forward to it now, and hopefully the book will live up to that.